SimWorld presents Around the Table with E and the Fat Man.
What's up, everybody? It's me, it's the B.O.B., and I'm here with my man E. How are you doing today?
Oh, you know it, Bob. I'm always happy to be someplace with you. We got a little around the table.
As always. Well, this is Around the Table with E and the Fat Man. That is E. I am the Fat Man. And this is the podcast where we talk about anything we really want to, primarily related to sports. I mean, today I think we have when is the NBA Finals are ending soon. We have potentially
maybe
one more game left.
Maybe sooner than I was gonna say maybe sooner than some of us would have liked, but that's okay. That's life. It does that to you.
Yeah, I mean it's been a little bit of a, I don't know if I want to say if it's been a little bit of surprise or not. There's been a bunch of surprises. The fact that the Heat are in the finals. The fact that Jokic finally has gotten past the second round of the playoffs.
Yeah, that too.
He may. I think it's the second round, but who knows? And right now the Nuggets are up 3-1. Got one game tomorrow, 8:30 p.m. It's at Denver. I'm not sure. I want to give Miami the benefit of the doubt. They've done things this postseason that nobody really expected from them, but being down 3-1, yes, it's happened before. But
I think once.
Yeah, and it was Golden State, Cleveland, right?
Yeah, that's right. Actually, that was LeBron. As a matter of fact, look, if Miami doesn't turn this around, if they don't win even one more game, it's still been a really great story.
Absolutely.
And an impressive achievement for them. And look, Denver's a very, very, very good team, right?
Sure.
No shame in maybe dropping a series to them too. But, hey, look, crazy things kind of happen. It's good to sort of see that. Chance maybe we'll see that in SimWorld this year too with the race to one, Bob.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of that, real quick, give me your prediction. Tomorrow night, Denver's up 3-1. Is it over tomorrow?
Yeah, I think it goes back to when it goes back to Colorado, it's all gonna close up shop. I came into this rooting for Miami. I wanted to see Miami do well, and I knew when they went up 3-0, I predicted Game 7 that they were going to win. They were going to beat Boston. It's just so hard to beat a team 4 times in a row.
Yeah.
But anyway, all that to establish my Miami bona fides. But I'm going with Denver.
Yeah, Denver's going to win it all. I think just for the sake of it being interesting, I mean, the Heat, they did win 1 in Denver, Game 2. Just to make it interesting, I'll say that the Heat win tomorrow, but then Denver wraps it up in 6. They'll wrap it up in 6. But, yeah. No, so, jumping back, you mentioned the race to 1. We are about a month and a half away before that starts. So, we talked about it a few weeks ago, but things are a lot more clear now, just in the past couple of weeks than they were when we last talked about this. So,
no doubt.
Let's try and narrow down our picks. Right now, race to 1 championship. Who do you got?
So, and I will
say championship game.
Yeah, our title game, if you will. Well, there's look, you're probably like this too, Bob. There's a handful of teams you're a fan of, right?
Yeah.
But if we only got to pick like our top teams here, and this is like who you really going to put your money down on. I think actually coming out of the Legacy Conference, a team I feel really good about. It's funny because they're on top of their division, but I sort of think like people don't think of them in that top 5-ish kind of way. Anyway, to quit beating around the bush and talk about who I'm talking about Coach Myron Murray's Run DMV. Winners of 7 in a row. They were 6-6. You're talking about a couple weeks ago. Well, a couple weeks ago, they were 500. Actually, they were below 500. They were 6-6. They struggled. They had like surprising loss to SimWorld Atlantis to begin the year, although SimWorld Atlantis is not that bad, by the way, but that's another topic.
Yeah.
But they have been really, a 7 wins in a row will tell you. They have been really, really playing well. I got to give credit to Coach Murray. He has an idea behind what he wants to do out there on the floor. Last year, it was all about Cooper King Cross putting up 30 a game, just being absolutely unstoppable. Not like that this year. The top 2 scorers on Run DMV, Trey Trust and Kamari and Bracken, both around 12 points a game. I mean, good players, no doubt, but, not not all world top 5 first teamers, kind of a thing. It's just a team that has surprising depth. It's not a huge team. John Hudgens is a good player at 6'10", but he's not necessarily dominant. And outside of that, you're looking at some guys that people probably think of as a little bit undersized. Nick Hugo, 6'7", coming off the bench often and playing well. A lot of 16-year-olds on the team on Run DMV.
Yeah.
It's funny. You look at the lineup, and it's it'd be okay to come out of it scratching your head a little bit, saying, how are these guys 13-6? But you look at the coach, you look at how the pieces fit together. We always talk about fit in this game and chemistry and things going right. And that's what Run DMV does. Everybody kind of knows their role. Again, you get your shooters and Bracken and Trust, but you've also got, Charles Pinkard coming off the bench playing good defense, good sharp shooter there. Even somebody like Keith Singleton, athletic guard, coming in. The whole point of it is that, sometimes you got to look at the results. Sometimes you got to look at the final scores and the win-loss column, less so than getting distracted by the, heights and weights and physical measurements of all these kids. And if they look the part, Run DMV doesn't look the part. They are it. They're getting it done.
No, for
so
sure.
I got to pick them. That's no hotter team in SimWorld right now. And no reason to think that's going to change the rest of this year.
No, that's a really good pick. I mean, you look at the, I always think that a team needs like a guy that they can turn to when things start getting rough. DMV doesn't necessarily have that.
No.
But at the end of the day, they're the third highest scoring offense in all of SimWorld Hoops. And every single person on that team contributes. You look at the lowest scoring, Charles Pinkard and Ty Rocco the third. Tyrell McDaniel has 4.6
Tyrell
points.
McDaniel,
But everybody is averaging at least the 4.6. I mean, everybody's getting at least 2 buckets. You can look at other teams.
I know.
Like if we look at Rocky Mountain Monsters, they have 2 guys averaging 1 point per game. And you're not getting a whole lot out of them. But DMV get something out of everybody. And I think I always use this example, but I think DMV right now is the perfect example. They're really the Clippers from a few years ago, where it was everybody just knew their job. And it's working out for them right now. Like you said, they're on that 7-game winning streak. They're 13-6 right now. So is there a hotter team? I don't think so. I don't think so.
I don't necessarily think so either. And by the way, you just made a great point. Thanks for making my argument even stronger, Bob. I appreciate that. But you're right. You look at this team and everybody contributes. You talked about the scoring, but even like assists. There's only 2 guys on this team who average less than 1 assist per contest.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just everybody gets out there, everybody contributes, everybody rebounds, everybody averages more than a board a game.
Half the team can shoot threes.
Yes. Yeah. And everybody can shoot a little.
Yeah.
That's right. So that's why I got to go. I mean, obviously, Trey Trust, the top shooter on that team from deep, but you've got what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, half the team. Has got a dozen or more threes. It's crazy.
Absolutely. So Eric, you have Run DMV versus who?
Oh, you want me to go ahead and give my other half? All right. I'm going to make you do 2 in a row.
Half.
All right. Well, so that was my legacy conference pick, Run DMV. Going with them over Originators, going with them over G5. There were a few other good teams there too. You could argue the Legend Conference is even more loaded. I think everybody knows about that Pacific Rim division. A lot of good squads in that. But if I'm picking my other team to have them go up against out of the Legend, I am sticking with the team that I called a race to 1 favorite when we talked about this a few weeks ago, Bob, and that is Lone Star Basketball Club. Okay. How can I not go with Texas? I've been talking about Texas all SimWorld season, and nobody has more Texans than Lone Star. So only 1 kid from out of state, and he's just from Oklahoma, so that's fine. But no, Lone Star, Coach Evan Atkins' team. I mean, LaShawn Berry, Jace Miguez, Nene Gibson, Derek Long. There's just a lot of talent on this team. Mork Thomas has come in, played great at the point position. But really, I think, it's the big 3 for these guys. You always look at teams needing the big 3. And Nene Gibson doing the scoring, Jace Miguez doing a little bit of everything. as a wing forward, and then Derek Long, not a great shooter, not a great scorer, not even really that offensive minded kid, but not sure if anybody does more with rebounding, defense, positioning, just playing a smart game for a big man, 6'10" kid, averaging more than 3.5 blocks per game.
Yeah.
In a 36-minute SimWorld game is pretty nuts. He just is a beast down there. And again, I like the way the pieces fit in around these guys. You've got some athletes, LaShawn Berry, I mentioned, Chris Yardley coming off the bench too. Tyrell Marr is a good player. Even the two 16-year-olds on this squad, Mark Thomas and reserve big man Mason Green, have some skill. They're loaded. They're all upperclassmen. They're good. We've seen that more than a few times this year. Reason why they're 14-5. I know they've lost their last two, but I gotta like Lone Star for the end of the year.
Yeah, it's really hard to argue against, especially with the way that they started the season. I mean, but you look at them, it's a very good pick. I can see Run DMV versus Lone Star Basketball Club in the Race to One championship game. The only thing that really concerns me about Lone Star basketball, and it's also what kind of concerned me about Run DMV, is who is that guy. We know who that guy is, but there's really no one. We don't really hear about Nene Gibson. He's averaging 15.8 points per game. Why don't we talk about him anymore? He was such a big name coming into the season. So we have Jace McGez, Nene Gibson, and then who else? My concern is they're so across the board, they're average. And then they have these two stars. I mean, you shut one of them down, and I don't see the other one necessarily being able to pick it up. It's a very good pick. I think they're a good team. They're 14-5 for a reason. They had their struggles. Derek Long, one of the top defensive big men in the game. Jace McGez and Nene Gibson, two of the top scorers in the game. Where I would get concerned is sometimes they can't necessarily score a lot. What happens when they go up against a team that's really good defensively but can put up some points? Are they going to be able to stop them? Probably, but probably because they are still ranked third in opponents' points per game. But the balance isn't there for me.
Well, to contrast it to Run DMV, who I made my first pick, definitely very different in that way. You are absolutely correct that on a scoring level, Gibson and Miguez are more of a kind of bottleneck for Lone Star than anything DMV has. And you are correct that if somebody can come out there and figure out a way to shut those two guys down, or even one of them potentially, it can make life hard on Lone Star. Lone Star kind of gets it done with defense, I would say.
For sure.
And it's really what kind of elevates a guy like Derek Long to being a third star on that team with Miguez and Gibson. Because even though he only averages 7.2 points a game, he does so much on the defensive and so much in terms of rebounding. Shots he blocks, the shots he gets in the way of. Keep in mind, Derek Long averages more than 2 assists per game too.
Oh yeah,
he's one of the leading assist men on that Lone Star club. He's just not a scorer. And I think that's something good to watch is over the rest of the season heading into the Race to One. Can somebody who can look like a third scorer develop on this Lone Star team? Tyrell Marr, maybe. Maybe he could be a third option to kind of move out there, and he's a good 3-point shooter as well for a 6'4" wing. I take your point, but I like what Lone Star does so much on defense that I had to make them my Race to One second pick. For sure.
No, I think it's both picks are very, very solid picks. I can see them being the championship game, the Race to One championship game participants for sure. I will say that Lone Star Basketball Club was one that I really considered putting in mind for the Legend Conference, but I think I can't. So we're gonna have completely different Race to One championship game predictions right now, and mine are on kind of opposite ends of the spectrum right now. So I will go ahead. I'm going to start with my Legacy Conference, and it's hard for me to pick against the Originators. I just think from top to bottom, they have the outside scoring presence, they have the inside defensive presence, and they just need to learn a little bit to. They need to learn to slow down some of the guards. Some of the guards have gotten inside a little bit. Other teams have kind of pulled their bigs out of the middle, and when that happens, obviously the inside opens up a little bit. But they're still averaging the sixth least amount of points scored against with 65.8, and they're the second highest scoring team. They're 75.3. So I think that with DJ Wagner, Kadarius Loftus, and really there were small forward kind of rotates between Jared Quinney and Kamari Ward. I think with that those four on offense, I don't know if there's any team that can really slow them down for a long enough period. And then you have probably the best pair of defensive bigs in SimWorld Hoops with Victorious Ilgauskas and Tyrone Snyder. The way that they block shots, sometimes completely out of position, and they just kind of come across the court and help out. They're good helping on defense. I just think that this team is the complete package. The worst stat for them, opponent's 3-point percentage, but they don't give up a lot of points. So, but that's going to be the concern for me for them. So I'm picking the Originators, but the concern is how can they slow down? How can they get a little bit better on defending the perimeter? But they haven't really had to. I mean, they are 15-5. They went on their little, 3 or 4 game losing streak.
Yeah.
After a 10-game winning streak.
Right.
So I think they got that out of the way. But DJ Wagner, 20.2 points per game. Kadarius Loftus, 16.4, and has the highest scoring game in SimWorld Hoops, is 43 this year after hitting the record 12 points, 12 3-pointers in a game. And then Jared Quinney and Kamari Ward, they're sneaky good 3-point shooters too. Kamari Ward only has 8 shot, but he also hasn't had a ton of playing time until we're heading into the end of the season. But he can get to the hoop. He kind of reminds me of a little, not a little. he reminds me a little bit of Kamari. Kamari Ward reminds me of Kamari Ward.
He'll do that to you.
He reminds me of somewhat of a Dominic Bianco, just not someone who's taking over the game completely, but some of the dunks that he's had and some of the athleticism he has shown. Kamari Ward can really get to the basket. And I think for me, the Originators has to be my pick for the Legacy Conference participant for the Race to 1 championship game.
Yep. Well, look, it's a great pick, and I think that there's another factor that goes into the making them so good, which you didn't dwell much on, which is their head coach, Alyssa Dodge. Second-year coach, come back to the squad, knows what she's doing. She's got some players back from last year, too. Now, they all come off the bench. Eric Nelson, Maverick Jackson-Jones, Kevin Sullivan, but add it to these new stars that are in the mix. DJ Wagner, the brightest star in the Origin Galaxy. But Kadarius Loftus, also quite good. There's a lot to like about this team, for sure. I can't argue against any of it. Really. And they kind of passed the eye test too, watching them in live games, things that we've called. They look like they should be there for sure at the very end. Also a very upper class team. Only Ilgauskas and Kamari Ward are 16-year-olds. Everybody else is 17 or older on this squad. Maybe to compare them to Run DMV for a second. Again, if you could figure out a way to shut down Loftus and Wagner, should give the Originators some problems. They're maybe not as quite as much depth across the talent in terms of the scoring anyway. And, not everybody can shoot a 3 on this team either. Only really 3 guys on this team have much in the way from an outside shot. So maybe that's a little bit of a weakness there too. But no, the Originators are a juggernaut. They would have been really tough this year, even if they hadn't signed DJ Wagner, and they did. So, yeah. So don't expect the Originators not to be there at the end. I just do really, I certainly looked at them when I thought about teams coming out of the Legacy Conference. But I think that they are probably second in my mind to run DMV. But DMV versus the Originators would be a very good battle to watch. So hopefully we'll get that coming up later this year.
Maybe we'll get that in the game before the championship.
maybe so. But all right, so now we signed off on the legacy. We got our top 2 in the legacy. You got one more legend to throw out there, I think.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go, and I have to. Maybe 3 weeks ago I wouldn't have, but I think I'm gonna go with the Yacht Club for my participant in the championship game.
By the way, they are 9-10, Bob. They aren't even 500 yet.
Correct. They are as of right now, they're on the bubble. They're the number 8 seed right now.
Yeah.
In the Legend Conference for the championship, the Race to One playoffs, and I think that I just think the addition of Adam Max is going to be so. I know he hasn't been doing. It hasn't felt like he's been doing great the last couple games, but his presence down low, being 7 foot, he's huge. And him, and Jay Laster, Trey Willis, and Tamir Johnson. Tamir Johnson isn't starting right now, but I think those 3 obviously are huge compliments to Dominic Bianco. Dominic Bianco, top 5 player in SimWorld Hoops. He's ranked number 5 right now. But I think that Jay Laster, Trey Willis, and Tamir Johnson don't get enough credit. Jay Laster, one of the best, one of the top defenders in the league. And I just think I think that they have some pretty good depth. You have Garrett Hart again. Like I said, Tamir Johnson is not starting. Rizzo Davis, Wrightsville. I think that they have some good depth that they're really going to be able to surprise some teams. Do I think that they're going to win their division right now?
Probably too far behind. Probably.
They're most likely a little bit too far behind. I don't see them necessarily catching up right now, but doesn't mean they can't make that run in the championship, in the Race to One championship. So I have to go with, I think that the championship game is going to be the Originators versus the Yacht Club.
Interesting. Well, I like the pick. I like, it's been all change with the Yacht Club. I mean, they've got new guys coming in, coming out all the time. And I definitely think that the changes they've been making down there have been effective. It's an interesting mix. Dominic Bianco, some returning known talent with some new guys coming in. I like the pick. It's funny. Yacht Club just 9-10 on the year. In fact, they lost their last game, but I thought about them too. They definitely crossed my mind when we were getting ready, prepping for the show today, because they just kind of feel like they are up and coming, even if they are a little bit of a dark horse. Maybe not a true dark horse. Let's talk about our dark horses, Bob. So I think we both should throw out one team as well. You maybe already kind of did with Yacht Club in a sneaky way, but the goal here is let's name somebody who maybe isn't a division leader right now. Maybe they've had some struggles, but you see a light at the end of the tunnel for these guys coming at the end of the year. You want me to throw somebody out first, or you want to go first? I'll let you have your pick.
You go ahead. I just gave 2 in a row, so let's let them hear you for a little bit longer.
All right. Well, if you may remember from the last time we talked about Race to One favorites, I have also been talking up all season long the Frontier Division. I'm calling it the Black and Blue Division, a little bit like the NFC Central used to be in football when those teams were all just beating the life out of each other. And I think it's kind of happening again this year. There's only one team, Rocky Mountain Monsters, who are above 500 in the Frontier. They're a mile out in front. They probably win that division, but everybody down to Heartland in last place in the Frontier, I think is tough and can beat you on any given night. But the team that I still think yet could emerge, go a very long way, and be a factor when this is all over is the Indy Stripes. Now, the Stripes are merely 9-11. Now, first of all, that's only one more loss than the Yacht Club, but still under 500. They've kind of been up and down. Coach Javad Storm, brought some new players in. White Williams very, very recently. But the crazy thing is if you look at the Indy Stripes on paper and just on talent, absolutely loaded. Let's start with the backcourt where you have the Jameses. Denari James, we all know, but Barkley James has his moments. He can fill it up. averaging more than 11 points, third leading scorer on this team behind Benari, first with 19.9. Out at the wing spot, you got Jay Luce and Johan Novajovic, both, talented scorers, talented players. And then you move on down to the forward positions. Well, you got Reza Red manning the post, just 15 years old, but that kid is a beast. And I think that actually the other kind of big guys on Indy Stripes are a little bit underrated. Towns Romanowski, Robert McGee, neither one of them put up huge points. McGee is a very good glue guy out there, though. And Romanowski, I've watched games where he just suddenly emerges. He ends up with 10, 12 points, 14 points, and 6 or 7 rebounds in a contest. This is all to say, and I even talked about other players who I think got skill too. I mentioned White Williams, Sean Chapman Daly, Anyway, the pieces don't fit together yet in Indy.
Yeah.
They don't. But they can. They should. Coach Storm keeps on trying new things. I like the Stripes. There's just a lot of talent on this team, and I'm waiting for them to gel, and I'll admit that I've been waiting for that for a little bit of time now. But I still think it can, and when it does, I think that they are as dangerous as anybody in this league. So that is why I think that they are still a potential race to one competitor at the end of the year.
Oh, yeah.
Who do you got, Bob, flying under the radar?
Well, I will just say that I definitely agree. I think that's a very good pick. I think what we're still really waiting for is the explosion of Reza Red. He was so dominant in the off season during the pickup games and everything that we really thought that I thought he would be the leader of this team. I really thought that he would force his way onto the court, and he's starting now. I really thought that he would force his way onto the court for a lot more time than he had, which has to do with some SimWorld Hoops rules as well. But I think if he can get, or I will say if Coach Storm can figure out how to get Reza Red involved in this game a little bit more, when you have one of the top backcourts in the entire SimWorld Hoops in the entirety of SimWorld Hoops, Benari James and Barkley James, and then you have guys like Johan and Jay Luce, like they have a lot of talent there. I just think that they need to figure out how to get Reza Red more involved, and they could definitely make a run if they did that. I am going to, there are some teams, I'll name drop a few teams right now that I'm not going to pick, and I'm sure you would love to name drop them too, because we don't necessarily see them as dark horses either.
Right.
I mean, you have does anybody think Bay Area or Showtime is a dark horse? No. There's a lot of expectation that pretty much, I would say probably the top 6 in the Legend Conference right now, from Best Coast, Lone Star, H-Town, Southeast Select, Bay Area, and Showtime, any 6 of those guys, the expectation is they should be in the championship game. I don't think most people are going to deny that. So I'm not going to mention any of those guys as my dark horse because the expectation is that they're going to get there somehow. I think for me, and it's difficult choice, I have to go with Gulf Coast Lockdown. And they're 4 games under 500 right now. But when you have guys like Suno Chapa and De'Aaron Cruz, I just think those two, again, another one of the top backcourts in all of SimWorld Hoops. I think they're a dark horse that I think could really turn things around and show us that, yeah, they might be going through their struggles right now, but we should have never forgot about them. Because again, we are kind of forgetting about them a little bit. They're on a 2-game losing streak. They're 4 games under 400, and we are a month and a half away from the race to one championship. Yeah. So while I could go with some other teams, I definitely could, but I just think that those two, I think Chapa and Cruz have so much talent that they're going to figure out a way to squeeze in, maybe take away SimWorld Asia Pacific, they're SimWorld Asia Pacific, they're number 7 right now, but they are a dark horse. I think that they're definitely a dark horse. They have the opportunity to definitely make some noise, but I think that of all the teams, I don't think AT Aliens are are going to do anything. They're ahead of Gulf Coast right now. I don't think AT Aliens are going to do enough to be able to jump into the top 8 Legend Conference standings. I do think Queen City Kings I think they're another dark horse that could definitely make it. But I do think with the talent in the backcourt that Gulf Coast has, I can see them moving up to the 8 seed. Yacht Club maybe jumping up to 7, and Asia Pacific falling out, and then Gulf Coast making a little bit of a run if Cruz and Chapa catch fire.
Yeah, hey, I like those too. I definitely like those too. And Bob, I like all the picks today. I think no real big disagreements here, huh?
No, not at all.
No, well, like you said, things are coming more into clear focus as this season is going on, and that's why maybe we quit making picks that just astound and amaze each other.
Well, Eric, I appreciate you as always. Everybody that listens, we appreciate you guys. If you're listening and you're not a part of our Discord, head over to discord.gg/SimWorld NBA. Follow us on Twitter and YouTube at SimWorld 4K. If you want to be a coach, if you want to be a player, if you want to be a commentator for us, if you want to be a sports media member for us, if anything that you can think of that you want to do, reach out to us, fill out an application, join us. Eric, do you have anything for the people?
Just remind them that there's only one place to see the game and be the game, and you know where that is, SimWorld. SimWorld, find us on discord.gg/SimWorld NBA.
All right. Have a great rest of your weekend, everybody.